Yeah. Hi there. Welcome. Welcome. We're starting a little late here. I apologize for that. I'm going to start everyone who's on here with us live or catching the replay with one of our favorite recordings. We enjoy teasing Ben Brown about this. Let's see if this plays.
Hello, my name is Ben Brown. I'm the owner and head coach of Phase 3 Muay Thai in Santa Rosa, California, which is currently not where I'm at. I happen to be on vacation in Kauai while my school is being attended to by my staff. I just wanted to give a quick unsolicited testimonial to Master Stephen Oliver and the Martial Arts Wealth Mastery Group. I have been running my operation for about 20 years, and I was always struggling to keep that place at 16,000 gross on a good month. And in California, that's rough to make a living. Within 6 months of being associated with that group, I got my gross up to 59,000, and I'm not making that up. I can show you the financials. It's been life-changing, to say the least. I've renovated my home for my wife. I gave my kids a Christmas I'm proud of for the first time in my life. I get to take my family on vacations, and more importantly, I can go to bed knowing that my financial future is secure. And that's not something a lot of people in our industry can say. So, I want to thank Master Stephen Oliver for his guidance and everybody that's been lending me a hand with that group. And B, I want to say that if you're a struggling martial arts instructor, I encourage you to take a look. He's unconventional, but there's a reason for it. And you have to be willing to work. Like, be willing to do the work. And lastly, you should treat it like it's a martial arts school. And that man is sensei. So when he tells you to do something, the answer shouldn't be, that's not how I'm used to doing it. The answer should be, yes, sir. So, one more time, Master Stephen Oliver, thank you very much. And everybody else that's been giving me a hand, you have changed my life. So, this is Ben Brown, signing off from Kauai.
I don't have your audio, sir.
Let's see.
I hit mute as always, and there we have Master Smith as well. So we are having audio and well, not any video challenges, just audio challenges. We have instead of Master Smith, we have Mr. Dunn having problems with the getting into the room today. So I don't know what's going on, but we're just going to power through and get going here. Hey, the promise of the day was 5 things you need to do to start off 2024 with record results. And we have we've been working with schools who, a few of them are having a little bit of a frustrating year. Some people who we've been coming in contact with, and I will tell you, if you're in the martial arts school business and you survived the last 3 years, you've survived 100-year aberration in our industry between the various countries and states overreacting to the pandemic, and then all of the economic peril that created. And we have one of the strangest periods of the economy that I can remember. Low unemployment exacerbated by people not going back to work, exacerbated by not having enough workers in the job force, exacerbated by soaring inflation, exacerbated by high interest rates. So if you've been doing well in your martial arts school in the last year, pat yourself on the back. And if you obviously survived the pandemic, pat yourself on the back, because our guess is about 40% of the industry did not. Master Moody, you'll be happy to know I actually did slides for today.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I don't want you to go into shock here, but I'm gonna use both of these as a handout for everybody as well, or you can get it if you just give us our office call. I put in the chat room there. Bob put in his phone number, and I put in the direct link. But let me go to Master Moody. You had critiqued this a little bit, and I frankly I didn't get your critiques in, but this is going to be our topics here, and far from being 5 as might be typical. Let's see, I came up with I think 7 or 9 or something like that. I think it's actually 9.
You get extras.
Yeah, we get extras. So we're not going to probably get through thoroughly all this stuff, but I will give it to everybody as a handout. Our number one thing that we keep going back to, and maybe we should start with this. When we have a new client, we bring on board a new school owner that we bring on board. I tell people that there's 3 things we work on immediately. There's what their pricing is for a new enrollment. There's their conversion process from lead to appointment, the introductory class to enrollment, and keeping track of that. And then the third thing, and Matt Smith, your camera went off again. And the third thing is opening the floodgates and getting a big flow of high quality new leads or new prospects in the door. And one problem we've made in the past is opening the floodgates for school owners and getting a flood of intros, and then they kind of get pissed away in the process because their follow-up systems aren't in place enough to convert. And then the other problem is in starting on that side of it rather than starting on the pricing side first, of enrolling a whole bunch of new people at an incredibly ridiculously low price point rather than bringing them in at the right level. But our point number one, Matt Smith, you were just up in I believe Rochester, New York, at one of our client schools, and we were laughing because you verified premise number one of Parthenon is the school you were at when they have a lot of different things going on. We tell people you need 20 things going on every month. When they had a lot of things going on, they were doing Google and pay-per-click, social media marketing, but also doing internal referral systems, birthday parties, pizza parties, buddy events, and so forth, doing that effectively. Plus, they were doing community outreach, working with elementary schools, churches, scout troops, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When they had all of those things going on, they were doing great enrollments, 20, 25, 30 enrollments a month. Everything was good. A month or two after they had big enrollment numbers, they had big renewal numbers. And then they would get complacent and just, try to feed off of Google and Facebook ads. And then they would have mediocre renewal enrollment numbers, and the renewal numbers would go down. Then their growth would slide. Is that a fairly good description?
Exactly. And I have a little feedback on my mic here for some reason.
I can answer for them. I mean, that is a fairly good description of what we say.
Yeah, exactly.
If we're getting feedback, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully my audio and video are both functional right now. But
they are. So.
Yours sounds good.
Yeah, but if you want to start with number one to fix is your pricing. We're going to go into that. Number 2 is keeping track of your numbers. Number 3 is once you keep track of your numbers, in other words, what gets measured gets done, fix your lead and intro follow-up systems so that they're tight. And Matt Smith, Matt Moody, Mr. Dunn, who's lurking in the background here somewhere, what we find a lot is when we bring in a new client, they'll say, well, everybody who comes in enrolls. But then what we find is their marketing systems have been inept, have been, fairly inadequate, and they haven't been doing much volume. And of course, if you make people struggle to find you, or if everybody who comes in is drug in by another student of here, this is John, he wants to enroll, of course, your conversion ratio is going to be good if you're talking to one person a month. But all of a sudden, if we sign you up for a big live event, we get a good agency doing the Facebook marketing, we get a good community outreach with the local elementary school, we get some big buddy days, and all of a sudden you have 150 or 200 leads in a month. Guess what? It all falls apart. So number 1 is fixing the pricing. Number 2 is keeping track of your numbers. Number 3 is fixing your conversion rates. Number 4 then is open the floodgates. And I kind of went out of order here, but we started with this number 1, which is marketing Parthenon. And what we mean by that is hustle. In today's day and age, and I think, if anybody can, I can claim the title of the lead person on staying on top of the digital age in martial arts schools. Master Moody, I think we came in contact back when I wrote the first book. How to market your martial arts school on the internet, and that was pre-Google. It was Alta Vista, Yahoo, and a number of other different sources, and we've kept on top of it since. And then Master Moody, you work closely also with Rev Marketing, staying on top of pay-per-click and Google search and what it takes for organic and so forth. But I will tell you is, one, digital marketing is not enough. And if you start paying attention to the bozo explosion of gurus online, oftentimes they're going to tell you, hey, we've got the perfect Facebook ad and we're going to flood your school. And oftentimes they're good for a month or two. They're not good for permanent. But the reality we know is everything works together. If I have bandit signs out, rack cards out, a big banner on the school, I'm in the local elementary schools, I'm in the local churches, I'm working with the local scout troops, and then they see me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever it might be. And of course, Facebook's still the 800-pound gorilla and all that stuff. But if they see me there, the ads they see online work much better. And the other thing we find, and Master Moody, we quote this number a lot, and it changes from time to time, but regardless whether they saw you in Facebook or they saw you in the elementary school classroom or they saw you with your scout troop, what would you say the number is? I say 80% typically, but I'm going to say 80% of soccer moms are going to Google you. And so if you're in the kids market, and by the way, adult males act differently than adult females, and moms act a little bit differently than dads and so forth. But what we know is moms are going to be 80% likely to go Google you. And they're looking for Google reviews, which is an important component. They're looking for any other feedback online. They're looking for people who are saying good things or bad things. And ultimately, they're going to show up at your website. And that's all going to happen oftentimes before they ever come into the school, but certainly it's going to happen before they, enroll, sign a commitment and so forth. They're going to check you out.
Well, and what we find is that most people are missing just a whole bunch of little pieces and all that crap that's terrible. Their Google business profile, their ratings, their a whole bunch of stuff that they're either inadequate on, or they're doing way too much stuff on. They're spending too much stuff on time that isn't giving them good results. So there's a lot of that we fix right away.
Yeah. And I'm going to go to our second piece here, and I have another video, another handout I want to show you guys here in a little bit. But I'm going to go to a topic we don't talk about much in our non-members, but pretty much everybody in the industry is charging too little. And almost everybody that we talk to who are not clients of ours think that we're absolutely crazy with what we're recommending people charge. But what we're seeing now is the bevy of, and I mean bevy of, we have a stable of $1 million plus a year schools, and I'm talking about single schools, not multis. We certainly have multi-school chains that are well over seven figures as well. But the schools where an individual school is doing $1 million a year, they're charging in US dollar terms $297 to $397 a month for an initial enrollment. And again, it's not something we normally talk about. And if you think that I'm absolutely crazy, that's fine. You can think I'm crazy. But the reality is almost everybody is undercharging and have too low of expectation of what they can charge. And I'm going to, again, show you a video in a second here. And I apologize, it's kind of long, but I'm going to show you a video that validates a little bit of what I'm talking about here in a second. But I'm going to skip then to number 3, because we already talked about that briefly. But what gets measured gets done. It's an old adage, but it's a true adage. I think this was Peter Drucker, if I'm not mistaken, one of the top management gurus of all time. But what he said, what gets measured gets done. And what we know is the first step to fixing your introductory process and your enrollment process is to know what your numbers are to begin with. And if you don't have it in writing, if you're not writing it down every day, and I know a lot of you are using sophisticated software packages, and all of them are good. None of them replace you being on top of your numbers every day and really paying attention to it. And what you have to make sure you're doing is tracking your numbers every day. At the end of every day, I should know how many leads did I have today? How many of them made appointments? How many first introductory classes did I teach today? How many second introductory classes did I teach? How many of those enrolled? How many renewal prep conferences did I have? How many renewal conferences did I have? How many renewals did I have? How many students attended today? How many students that were on the verge of dropping out did I fix? I mean, there's a series of numbers you should know. And the biggest mistake that we see, we're not going to get into active count right now, but we see people who track their active count by how many ACH accounts cleared. What you should know is how many came in every day, how many are missing today, what classes are they coming to. But most important on the introductory or in the enrollment process is how many people visited my website, how many of them opted in, how many people clicked on a Facebook ad, how many of them opted in, how many were in the scout troop, how many of them gave me contact information, how many of them made an appointment, how many at the live booth I was running, how many of them did I get leads for, how many did I get appointments. And we have benchmarks for every different source and can tell you, for instance, if I'm at a movie theater over the holidays, or if I'm at a kiosk at the shopping mall over the holidays, we know that of every lead that we get, we should have about a 90% appointment rate on the spot. And we can tell you relative to the volume and so forth, more or less, how many leads and how many appointments you should make. Then we know what the benchmark is from a make appointment to show up, from show up to enroll, and then from enroll to renew. And you can tell whether you're doing a good job relative to the top 1% of the industry or whether you're not doing a good job relative to the top 1% of the industry. But anyway, Matt Smith, I don't know if you've gotten your microphone working better, but Matt Moody, any comments on those two items before we move on to the point number 4?
No, it's rare that we ever have anybody that we talk to that's measuring their numbers right. And I think what happens is when they have software that does that, like a lot of people do, they still don't look at the software and they're not paying attention to it enough that they are making the right decisions based on what that data is.
Well, and by the way, a lot of the software packages, we all know this as well as anything. A lot of the software packages are using different terminology and don't really aren't tracking the numbers the way we're tracking. I get a lot of people and they tell me their enrollment number. What they mean is their intro number, because their software package is not counting. They did an initial tuition, a 12-month, contract and so forth. Their software packages, talking about they did essentially a Groupon offer, whatever that might be, and counting that as an enrollment. So that's not what we want. We want to be very clear on apples to apples comparison, know what the numbers mean and so forth. But let me move on. Matt Smith, did your mic get any better?
I don't know.
It's tolerable.
Sounds a little better.
Yeah.
A little better. Yeah. There's other things that they should do on their numbers, because a lot of schools, they don't track their student value. They don't track the cost analysis on their marketing. In other words, how much is each enrollment worth? How much does each lead cost? So there's a whole series of things that help you develop a plan of action based on these stats that we're trying to get them to keep.
Yeah. And so again, I'm going to give everybody on this meeting, this is a handout. All of our members already have this. But the fourth point here is really pay attention to your profit and loss, and your expectations should be pretty high for what you can do with the martial arts schools. We have our top clients are working with a top 1% wealth manager, one of the top people in the industry. And when we talk behind the scenes, he's always amazed at the amount of cash flow that $1 million a year school is spitting out. And the problem I see, and again, I've been not very charitable about talking about the explosion, the bozo explosion of consultants, but we see even people who are talking about running $1 million a year school tend to have very low net profits. They tend to have massive facilities, huge staff, high payroll, an awful lot of expenses that are out of whack. Our guys are running 50% to the bottom line. So a $100,000 a month school is netting 50, 60, even 70,000 a month. But if you're not paying really close attention to that profit and loss statement and what your expenses are each month, you're going to have a problem. And on the flip side of that is you really can't develop a highly profitable school without developing a high quality team. So you've got to develop a quality team around you who should be able to make 20% more than any other opportunity they have out there in the market and run a very high percentage of the bottom line. So one of the things we really work on with everybody is keeping really close tabs on your P&L. The three big expenses for a martial arts school, of course, tend to be payroll, rent, and the marketing budget. And the marketing budget, I always hesitate to put a percentage on it because what we're doing is tracking return on investment. So what we know is, let's take two extreme examples. Let's say you have a school that's just fixated on doing cardio kickboxing, and they're charging $75 a month for cardio kickboxing, and the average student lasts 3 months. So now a lifetime student value is $225 versus one of our schools, their average lifetime student value is going to be more in the range of $7,000. So if I spend $300 to get a student who's worth $225, that's an abysmal, investment decision, right? I'm every student I'm enrolling, I'm losing $75. On the other hand, if I invested $700 to make 7,000, that's a 10-time return on investment on the top line anyway. That's a tremendous decision. Plus, our schools are running 50% to the bottom line, so if they invested 300, 500, 700 to get a new enrollment, they're still going to bring in 3,500 to 4,000 net on each new student on average. So those are the types of things we're really paying attention to. For some of the smaller schools, this may blow your mind, and that's okay. We can show you how to get there. It probably starts with fixing your pricing, paying attention to your numbers, fixing your conversion ratios, and then opening the floodgates on enrollments. And when I talk to small schools, oftentimes they say, well, you tell me you do 20 things a month, but I don't know what 20 things to do. Or they start with things that are very unproductive. They start with, I ordered bumper stickers for the school, and I gave students bumper stickers. And then we put out a few lead boxes. They start with things that are very unproductive rather than PE teacher for the day, followed by an after school enrichment program at the local elementary school, followed by the big AMC theater on Guardians of the Galaxy or Mario Brothers opening weekend this year, and made 150 appointments on that, followed by they were in the big mega church down the street and did something with them, followed by 22 Boy Scout troops came in. But a lot of the marketing we do isn't very expensive. And some of it is expensive. Direct mail gets kind of expensive. Facebook advertising gets kind of expensive. Google pay-per-click, can add up a little bit. So, but we really want to pay attention to that profitability. Let's go here to benchmarks. And we talked about this earlier. The point number 5 is cash ratio. There's been two extremes in the industry, and both of them are wrong. One extreme at the industry, Mass Moody, I talked about, going through the industry and rescuing people from one of the bozos that was just pushing everybody to cash out everything. So they were cashing out 6 months enrollments and one thing or another. And the problem would be is people would start working with them. They'd do more cash than they'd ever done in their life. And then all of a sudden they spent the money and then they're out of business because they don't have, adequate marketing flow. We're always looking at 50-50 or maybe 60-40 worst case of billing to cash in house. And if $100,000 a month school oftentimes will be $60,000 a month in billing. So ACH is hit at the beginning of the month. All of the bills are paid. The rent is paid. The payroll is paid. The marketing expenses paid. Everything is paid. Every bit of cash that comes in, which is another 50 or 60, is pure net profit, and a chunk of the billing that came in is pure net profit. But we're always looking to pay all the expenses with the billing, have everything covered, and then more or less double the billing from there with initial tuition and with the occasional paid in full. But Hey guys, anything to add to those points so far? I'm gonna hit a couple of other things, but I want to shift over to maybe go back to a quick marketing checklist after this video. And this is kind of a long video, so Master Smith, anything to add to that with anything I've said so far?
No, I think you covered it pretty good, except when schools are doing paid in full, we like them to do the paid in full on a renewal. Somebody that has a bigger balance, in their program rather than these small amounts when somebody's first coming in. And if they pay in full for, let's say, a year right up front, it is harder then to come right back to them and ask them a month or two later about getting more money to renew them to black belt. So getting your renewal process fixed is important too.
Absolutely. So good. Well, let me shift to this other little video if I can figure that out. Hopefully the audio is good on it as well. I see Jeff Cielo is participating in our meeting today here as a participant. I didn't put him in as a panelist ahead of time. I'm not sure I can accomplish that. But Jeff, you're going to see yourself live here because I did a little excerpt from our last Thursday meeting. We're going to praise Jeff and pick on Riley here in this video. So here we go. This is a self-serving question, but one of the biggest problems we have, and I've seen it all over the board. I've seen it where we've taken schools from 40 or 50. Everybody, let me know if the video is the audio is. Where we've taken schools. Yeah. Scott Sullivan was an example where he took them from 22,000 a month to 90,000 a month. We had one that we took from 7,000 a month to 17,000 a month, and regardless of the number. The syndrome is, well, I've worked with you for a year, or I've worked with you for 4 years or whatever, and I think I've arrived and I know all the stuff that you're teaching and I've kind of arrived. And this year we've had a record number of school owners, some of them from 7 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, some of them from a year or two ago, cycling back and coming back. What would you say to somebody who thinks that they've kind of arrived and why you came back and what the value of doing that is?
Okay, the reason I came back is because you marketed me heavily again.
Yeah.
And I got more stuff from you, and I decided to do the 100 students in 3 months. I said to myself, I'm not giving myself an excuse. I'm going to be there at every meeting. And the reason I didn't do so well before is I wasn't on every meeting. Part of it is being able to network with people that know what's going on and be able to ask them questions whenever you have a question. And that's a big thing. These guys have done this for years. I mean, this is not new to them. Everything that they said, they said this stuff years ago to me as well. But one thing will get through, and then you'll understand what it's all about. But it takes years for this stuff to go in, and you don't want it to take years. So just do what they say, and then you'll understand it later. But one of the big things is if you're not doing like your numbers, then you're killing yourselves. The only thing that I changed differently so I could see what I was doing is I started writing my enrollments down. I mean, instead of using the computer and saying, okay, here are the enrollments from the computer. No, I wrote them down. And that's how I get these numbers. Because I can see it every day.
That's a big thing too.
Jeffrey?
Yes, sir.
Sound familiar, Jeffrey Cash?
Yeah.
I was telling him that's what he had to be doing is writing his intros down and then tracking those. Don't lose track of them because he wasn't getting enough of his intros to convert to enrollments.
Well, and I might add to this, Jeff, and I want to keep having your input on this. We've got a number of other questions to get around to, but what I see happen a lot, Jack, you made this comment, I think, is, we talk to people who, let's say Tim Sullivan. So when they were here with us last, Tim was doing 22,000 a month. And that had been
Scott Sullivan.
I'm going to go ahead and pop that one off there. I don't see a way to jump forward to the piece with Riley, and it's going to go on for quite a while. I will note for everybody, anyone in the meeting here, and we have quite a few participants, jump in and ask any and all questions you have in the discussion forum. We don't have an easy way to put you on video live, but just feel free to ask any and all questions. Bob, you finally came in Demio terms on stage, and I put the link to your appointment calendar as well as the phone number. What we would offer for any and everybody in the group here is an opportunity to set a time with Bob Dunn, with Jeff Smith, and myself, and maybe Master Moody as well, to really go through your numbers. It's not a sales pitch. It's just an opportunity for us to look at your unique situation in Canada, UK, Australia, anywhere in the US. Look at your unique situation, your style, what you do, and give you feedback on ways that you can immediately get going. Guys, if you don't mind, I'm going to step back up to our point number 1 and go back to our other handout here for a second. Then we can pop back to the rest of this if we get a chance to. This is a little preliminary checklist, and again, we'll give this to everybody. So, Bob, anyone who reaches out, makes an appointment for us to chat with, we'll make sure they get this as well. I may be able to share it as a handout. The other sheet we're using, I set it up to share as a handout. But this just gives you a little bit of an idea of a starting point for the things that you can do to generate your school. Again, what we say is 20 different things going on every month, and we're talking about internal marketing events, family add-ons, grassroots marketing, very inexpensive, guerrilla marketing, if you will, live event marketing, effectively working the kids market, if you're in the kids market with the daycares, local elementary schools, and so forth, and very effectively getting into direct mail follow-up, automated and manual follow-up of every lead. Most people, once they generate a volume of leads, do a horrible job of this. Online marketing, getting really good with Google. That means both organic and with pay-per-click. So having your Google business listing in good shape, having your website in good shape, having lots and lots and lots of 5-star reviews. Anytime you get a scathing one, make sure you bury it with 5 other good ones, and et cetera. And then having somebody, and we usually use an outsourced company that does a really good job for us, but not without me looking over their shoulder and us working with them every week. But make sure you're doing a really good job with both organic things you can do on social media. Most of that doesn't get as much traffic as you'd like, but video shorts and so forth are working really well. And doing a really good job with paid media on Facebook, Instagram, and perhaps on some of the others. Right now I'm doing TikTok and Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. For martial arts schools, Facebook is still kind of the 800-pound gorilla, but some of these other platforms are certainly worth being out there on organic. But that just to give you a little bit of an idea of some of the different things that we can work through and teach you. In fact, Bob, those are all of that and more we'll go through in that 6-week Stay at 100 Students program that will kick off again fresh in January. So that is an additional opportunity for people to look at that. And they can just schedule an appointment on your calendar and get set for that. But anyway, guys, any quick questions on that? And I'll go back to this other sheet, see if I can figure out how to share it as a handout as well. No comments? Okay, let's go back to this one.
My audio was I did the Master Oliver thing.
You were muted.
I muted.
My audio on my
That's
end
okay.
has been so wacky. I'm not sure if it's if
I
somebody's
think that's why
talking.
we got an echo on the video. I think we got to turn our audio off.
Yeah. Maybe we should be on headphones for a change. Usually it doesn't have much impact on my setup, to tell you the truth. But we ended here on this 0.5. 0.6 is be clear on the benchmarks, and we had talked about that already. A couple of them, or several of them, we hadn't really talked about was, your dropout rate. I have yet to talk to a martial arts instructor who thinks that they're a bad instructor, but then the same instructors are losing 7 to 10% of their student body every month. And what we've seen is that big schools, I mean, schools with 300, 500, 700 students, but I kind of think Pursuit of Prime is 300 students at 400 value a month each. But big schools are running 1 to 2% a month dropout rate. And so if you're not tracking that, I mean, literally, it's as simple as how many people did we lose this month, not meaning their ACH didn't clear, but people who literally did not come to class this month, and how many total active do we have, and what percentage of them stopped coming to class, usually never to return. And again, to quote an old mentor, Nick Kokinas, prophylactic versus therapeutic. Much easier to keep them from dropping out than it is to get them back once they're gone. And we can show you how to fix that. I will tell you what most of the industry thinks, and I mean the gurus, the coaches, what almost everybody will tell you that is the fix for your dropout rate, mostly is being told to you by people who are dropping out 7 to 10% of their student body every month. So one, they have crappy dropout rate if they're still running the school. And if they aren't running a school, when they ran the school, they had crappy dropout rate. But number two is they're wrong. They're barking up the wrong tree on what retention is all about. Master Moody, you want to expand on that? I can't say it more strongly, but everyone I see creeping around the internet talking about, having excited, happy students and about podium skills in class and instructor quality and so forth, they're missing the boat on what it takes to keep a student coming back month after month.
Well, they're missing the boat in lots of ways, but
Yeah.
then we end up having those same guys having no reputation management at all online, and they have 2 reviews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. But anyway, you want to know what the benchmarks are, and these are a few of the ones that we pay attention to. Everyone who enrolls, we're looking for them to renew to a higher level within the first 2 months. So while they're at white belt at 75% rate, we're looking to lose no more than 1 to 2% of the student body every month. We're looking to have the percent. Well, we won't get into this, but the percentage of the renewals, at least 75 or 80%, typically more like 90, are directly into our highest level program. We're expecting an average monthly value for a student to be in the range of 400, and a lifetime value of a student to be in the range of 7,000.
And Master Oliver, if I could, I don't think my video coming across okay?
You're good. No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, I think sometimes when people see these, they're not sure what these numbers mean or what they count for, and that can be sometimes confusing to them. But what we when we so they go, well, these don't seem to make sense to me. When we figure out dropout rate, as you said before, most of the time people don't know what their dropout rate is, and they think that their dropout rate's good. The average dropout rate in the industry is like 8 to 9%, and the difference between 8 to 9%, it may not seem like a big deal. 8 to 9% versus 1 to 2%. That means you have to keep 4 or 5 times more students just to break even in your school. For every 100 students, if you're at 8% dropout rate, you have to enroll 8 students just to break even. If it's 1 or 2%, you only need 1 or 2 students to break even. It's a massive difference. So if you don't have a handle on the numbers, as you mentioned before, you're kind of flying blind. But even if you don't have a handle on the numbers, I think I can be confident in saying 100% of the time it's more in the 8 to 9% range than it is in the less than 5% range or less than 4% range.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, 2 things I just shared. I shared the sheet that we're using right now, this quick checklist, and I'll share the marketing checklist as well if I can figure out how to do it here briefly. And I also popped up the button here to schedule an appointment. If you click on that button, it'll take you to a link to schedule a time with Bob. Bob will schedule you a time. Well, he'll go through a pretty thorough analysis of your school with you. Then he'll schedule a time for Master Smith and myself to work with you. And there's no obligation. Again, it's not a sales pitch. If you decide you'd like to work with us, great. We can certainly talk about that if you are interested. But really, it's a chance to give you some specific feedback on your current results. Now, let's go to my next point here, and take a look at that. Then I'll share that other checklist when I get a chance to. As I mentioned, we tend not to talk about tuition with people who aren't clients, but I'm breaking that cardinal error here on point 7 and 8. In breaking that cardinal error, what we're doing now with students is we're enrolling them on what I would consider a trial enrollment, which is about a quarter of the way to black belt to begin with. For a school that has a 3 to 4 year time to first degree black belt, and then within the first 2 months, we're converting them to black belt. So we're converting them to the full program, and we're creating a pricing structure where whatever they were paying for initially, we have a renewal that's about double that at the high end as a higher level program. Then we have a program that's a little bit of a bump from what they were paying already with a longer commitment. And we're typically getting 75 to 90% of the students going for the higher level program. And the other one is just as a fallback position. Another thing that we're doing here with tuition, again, breaking my cardinal rule, but is one of the things, and I'll freely give credit where it's due. Master Smith, you fed the bulk of all the business systems that ATA schools use and that Tiger Showman and many of the others into their system via Master Bill Clark and via Mark Lazier through Danny Showman. But one of the things that we stole back was his idea of the family tuition, which was full person's full price, 2 people is full price times 2, but that's described as a family enrollment. And then once you're doing a family enrollment, if I have 2 kids coming in, it's really easy for me to get mom and dad to join. Once I get mom and dad to join with the kids, what that does is it improves my retention, improves my renewal percentage. It improves my retention to black belt. And frankly, it improves the feel of the school. And so what we'll end up with is what other people would consider kids classes, we consider family classes, and we end up with about a 50-50 ratio of kids and parents in the class. Worst case may be 2/3, 1/3. But that family tuition structure helps because as I did over the years, going all the way back now, 40 years, I think I started my schools when I was minus 10 years old. Dating myself too badly here. But what I found over the years is as I pushed the tuition, the only place I really started to have a problem was a family of 5, family of 4, family of 6, and it started to get to be really big numbers. But then when I shifted to, as I said, at Bill Clark's recommendation, to the family tuition, all of a sudden I got rid of that impediment on pushing the price point up because I was rarely finding a problem with our price points with 1 or 2 people. I was finding a price point with a family of 4 or 5 to start becoming a problem. The last point here, and it's kind of a minor point in the scheme of things.
Before you get to that last point, could I just clarify something on your pricing? Because that tends to be a sticky item with a lot of schools because they're still charging the same prices we were charging back in the 70s. And they haven't, allowed for inflation and everything. And we teach the schools how to increase their prices. And that's an important step in learning how to do, where you get to go at your speed of your increases because as you slowly bump it up, you'll see that it's not affecting your enrollment numbers. If anything, they start going up because they see more value in the program. So don't make a snap decision on that and say, well, in my area, we can't charge this amount or that amount. Let us show you how you can make incremental increases.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and perhaps not incremental, but you're absolutely right, Master Smith. As I said, our cardinal rule is not to talk about that because almost universally, um, we hear 4 or 5 different really ridiculous excuses. And I'll tell you what I've heard personally is I talked to a school owner who was in the financial district of Manhattan, um, and another one that was in I'm going to forget the area, but also in Manhattan, and another one who was in Malibu, California, another one that was in Newport Beach, California. And they all said some crazy version of the people that I bring into the school are too sophisticated and too rich to pay that much for martial arts school lessons. Then we, at the same time, talked to a school owner in Mankato, Minnesota, and in Dodge City, Kansas, and I could name all, and on the base of the Appalachians, all of whom were charging about $85 a month to month, who said, "Oh, you don't understand my area. People are too poor to do that." And then I could go through a number of schools who, told me they had too much immigrant population. And by the way, my number one favorite audience is first generation immigrant Hispanic. Being in Denver, Colorado, that's a lot of what we had. And I got to tell you, they'll pay more, they'll stay longer, they're a joy to the spirit, even if I have to have the 7-year-old child translate for the parents. But we hear this, the excuse of my area is too poor, my area is too sophisticated. The other excuse we hear, and this is just, and that was the video I was hoping to play for you. It's too long and we can't get to it. But his excuse was, I'm in Canada. Canadian, in Canadian schools aren't as charging as much. Well, that's not right. What the mistake is to look in your city and compare yourself with the other martial arts schools, because guess what? I mean, if you're comparing yourself with somebody who is making the income you want to make, who's as sophisticated as you want to be, who has been in business through good times and bad times for 20, 30, 40 years, who has consistently been in the top 1%, great. But when you look at, whether Master Smith or Master Moody, what it'd be like to compare yourself to everybody in Phoenix. Master Smith,
Right.
what it'd be like in the DC metro area. I know what it'd be like in Denver. In Denver, when I came here, and again, it's been a long time ago, but I did make the mistake of looking at all the other schools and, and price shopping them and everything else. But then I launched at double what the next most expensive school was in the metro area. And within 2 years, probably had a 50% market share of students taking martial arts lessons in the Denver metro area at double what the next most expensive school was. It just didn't make any difference. And what we know is, number one, if you do your marketing right, you don't just put a website up and hope and pray for somebody to contact you. If you do your marketing right and you do your conversion process right, one is, even if somebody is out looking for a martial arts school, whoever answers the phone first or gets them on the phone first tends to get them, if you do a good job. Number two is, very few people are actually comparing price among schools. And number three is, even if they are, what we know is they want the best quality instruction, and then they make a decision if they can fit it in the budget in that order. So if you happen to be charging double what the guy down the street is, it's not going to be they say, "Oh, wow, you're expensive." They're going to say, "Oh, this must be the highest quality school. Now let's figure out if I can fit it into the budget." That's the way they think about it. So again, we violated our standard practice against talking about price points. But Master Smith, go ahead, Master Moody.
Yeah, I was going to say that the funny part is everybody in poor areas points at the rich people and say, well, they could charge more. And everybody in the rich areas say, oh, we can't charge more. They can charge more. Everybody points at everybody else and makes a lot of excuses, and it's all BS.
Yeah.
And you learn that when you work with us, but we realize that that's one of the big resistance points that we have. So that's why it's our cardinal rule that we've broken, not to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. And I will say two things about that. with the schools that I owned outright for many years, and then we converted them to owner operator franchises. But there wasn't a direct correlation between how rich the neighborhood was and how well the school did. Is I had a school that was down the street from Cherry Hills Country Club, where they have a major PGA tour. A lot of the Broncos and the Nuggets, the pro football and basketball team, a lot of them live in the area. We would do work with the private schools and the public schools that were in those neighborhoods. And then conversely, we had a school at the opposite end of the city that had probably a 50% Hispanic clientele, most of which were first generation immigrants at lower than median income, what some would consider lower middle class or lower class. And very consistently, the schools in those neighborhoods actually did perform better on a total gross, on the net profit, on their student retention, and so forth. So you can't make a direct correlation. It is possible to be in a location where you're just not going to get the quality of the people that you want, and it is possible to do the marketing where you quote unquote fish in the wrong pond. But what I will say is there's not a direct correlation. It's about providing value. I think the biggest thing that we show people, and Matt Smith, you were alluding to this, is we show people how to create higher perceived value on the way in the door, because it's not actual value yet until they've actually enrolled and come into the classroom. But we show them how to prove the value of what they do, prove it with testimonials, prove it with showing parents what the process is, showing them adult students what the process is. Use NLP terminology, future pacing them through the process early on so that they see what it's all about, and then actually fulfilling the promise times two. So never over promising and under delivering, but always under promising and over delivering, but at the same time making the case on the way in the door, and then really delivering on that promise and continuing to reinforce it. Again, this sheet that we're using here, attached at the bottom is a bunch of free gifts for anybody who's on here. If you're on live and I just shared this sheet as a download, is you can click on and get a free copy of a couple of my books, a couple of videos, some other information. Also on that page, that martialartswealth.com free book, there's a direct link to schedule an appointment for us to chat. And then if you're, like I said, the conversation is not a sales pitch. We're happy to give you direct feedback on ways that you can improve your school, and direct ways, whether you're a Krav Maga school, a BJJ, an MMA, Taekwondo, Shotokan, anything in between. Hell, I even work with some music schools and dance schools. But on anywhere on the spectrum, we can show you how to really dramatically improve your results for the new year. But if you're interested in working with us, go to this other link here, martialartswealth.com/mastermind. It gives a pretty thorough breakdown of what the process is. Either way, you'd want to schedule a time to chat with us, and we'll give you that feedback. Also, if you'll give me just a second, I'm going to share with you that marketing checklist. I think it will let me do that here in just a second. Master Moody, what would you add to what we've talked about here?
Well, I think that the first thing I'd add is when people have the experience of meeting with us the first time, we're going to make a big difference just in 20 minutes of time with you. It can make even tens of thousands of dollars difference in what you do in your school. And if you don't want to put it into financial terms, it can make tens of members difference per month in what you do with your school. And it does require us to meet with you individually so that we can have a few minutes to talk to you about what's really going on specifically for you. Everybody's got a little bit different situation. I know that we've said these general concepts will work for all of you, and they will. But we can help you with your specific individual questions and how it applies directly to you. And you'll get results. And you've heard the testimonials from the guys that were the stories from Ben Brown and Jeff Cielo. And you can talk to a lot of our members, and they'll tell you the same thing. Is the common refrain is for the people that implement what we're talking about is they just wish they had implemented it earlier.
Absolutely. There is one other thing I might share with everybody is, what we are teaching the schools that we're working with right now is how to make December your biggest month of the year. And Master Smith, this is your idea, so I'll give credit where it was due. But all the way back to our Junior Institute days, is one of the things you did is you first sat down and said, how do I take the worst months of the year and make them my best months of the year? And one of the months that we've made the best of the year is July and August. We have managed to just blow the schools away by filling them up with new quality martial arts students in the summer months, not having to mess around with summer camps and daycare and all that kind of stuff. But the second thing is going back, God, probably 40 years now, is from your idea. I always had December my number one cash month of the year. November was my number two cash month of the year. Oftentimes the period of November, December would meet the cash results we had in the first 6 months of the year. And what I knew over the period of time, we all have those years like the last three, perhaps, Bidenomics combined with overreaction from COVID, having a genocide to our industry. But what we know is sometimes you end up at the end of the year and you have the credit cards are maxed. Maybe you are having owe the landlord some money. We've rescued a bunch of schools who, took out $1 million in loans from the SBA, and now they have a huge debt note and so forth because of the pandemic. But what we know is sometimes you're going into the end of the year and you're a little bit stressed out on cash flow. Other times I was just looking to build the reserve fund, build the investments, and build a big marketing war chest for January, February. But the way that we would do that is have a big renewal blitz. I mean, it's off topic today for us to spend much time on it. But let me give you this example. Here was a discussion in our Facebook group just recently. I had shared a text message that I had received, and I artfully titled it in the "This Shit Works" category. But Amanda and Stephen Christensen at our Mile High Karate School in Thornton, they did one renewal that paid them in full $48,114. Now, it doesn't take very many of those to have a $250,000 month in December. And nothing about what we are ever teaching anybody is about just cashing everybody out. I already told you we're looking at a 60-40 or 50-50 ratio. And Master Smith already told you we want those paid in fulls to be from big renewals, not from new enrollments. So we don't want to do a bunch of 3 and 6 month or 9 month enrollments and have them all paid in full. But if somebody wants to pay in full for leadership, fantastic. And what I would find is I can do in December, what we would normally do otherwise. So $100,000 a month school normally could add maybe $150,000 in additional cash in December, maybe another $100,000 in November, just by really effectively doing the renewal blitz, cleaning up some missing pieces, and doing a few cash deals. So I just wanted to give you that thought there, so you get the idea before we call it a day.
Yeah, and that's another reason to schedule your appointment now. I mean, try to get it in as quick as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, schedule a time. We're obviously going to take a little long break for the holidays, but we'd love to talk to you this week and give you some ways to finish up the year strong. But also really look at your school, look at the numbers that you have so far, and really give you a sense of what you can do to really ramp things up here. And again, I will remind everybody, if you haven't gotten this yet, I did share this sheet in the discussion forum here. There's a download link. Make sure you download that as a PDF. I also shared the marketing checklist that I shared a minute ago. I put that in as a PDF as well. So make sure you've downloaded that. And then I on the first sheet, what I gave everybody was a link for a whole bunch more free resources. And we also have the schedule appointment link here now. So if you want to call Bob Dunn or just click on the link and schedule that, we can schedule a time to chat with you. On that note, if anybody has any questions, feel free to pop into the discussion forum. We're happy to answer them. And Mr. Dunn, Master Moody, Master Smith, if you have anything to add before we call it a day, jump in, and otherwise we'll go from there.
No, I'm excited to work with everybody. You know, one of our missions is to help. Look, martial arts school owners get. There's a lot. There's so much we do for people, and it's so great to see people successful and thriving and making really, really good money in the business that they can make and they deserve to make, because this is a really valuable thing that we give to people. And it's unfortunate in the industry, it's thought of as such a low paying job. This should be a very high paying business, and it should be really, you know, a high status, high paying work for people. And that's what our mission is. And it's too bad that it's not that way for most people.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the best ways to learn how to increase your business is being with a group of people who have school owners that are doing those numbers. We have so many schools now that are doing $1 million plus, 100,000 a month plus in our group now. And when we talk about what they're doing and how they're doing it, then our new members like Ben Brown, who just copied what they were doing, and then all of a sudden in 6 months, he went from the teens all the way up to the high 50s in his gross.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But Bob, you were saying your audio is FUBAR. We're our little system where we use Zoom more than we use Demio, and so I guess we're not used to it. But hopefully my audio came out well. Master Moody, yours has been good. Master Moody, any last words of wisdom for anybody on the meeting here before we go?
No, I think we're ready to go. I think we need to get everybody scheduled so we can get in and talk to them.
Yeah, and we'll give you just a second. Make sure you've gotten those two downloads. And again, the martialartswealth.com free book is the one that has 2 of my books, a couple other videos, some other valuable information, and martialartswealth.com/mastermind if you're interested in working with us on an ongoing basis. But anyway, and any questions?
Can you put that back up, Master Oliver? Those links? Because those 2 PDFs didn't have those links in it.
The PDF, the checklist PDF has those 2 links on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and all they'd have to do is click and schedule an appointment with Bob, or just pick up the phone and call him directly. He'll make sure they have all of that material. Okay. Well, thank you guys, and we'll go from there, and maybe we'll do this again next month, and check out the audio a little cleaner from there. Master Moody, I think perhaps it wants me to work with Chrome, not Safari.
Maybe that could be the problem.
Yeah,
mine works okay.
Yeah, that's that's a pretty good indication. It's not like I'm running a high-end Mac Studio on the desktop, so it's not processing power. Okay, on that note, we'll call it a day, and thank you guys very much.
Thanks, guys.